Well, tonight we are getting word of a possible dramatic shift in policy for undocumented immigrants caught crossing the border. It's aimed at women and their children.
Reuters is reporting that mothers and their children could be separated. KCAL 9 political reporter Bryan joins us now with more on the proposal and the reaction to it.
Absolutely, and a lot of controversy tonight about a couple of immigration issues, actually. Tonight, some immigration rights groups are charging that President Trump's executive order on deportations is now breaking up families and separating parents from their children. And for those who will try to sneak into the U.S. illegally, the stakes may be getting a lot higher. Women and children who cross the border together into the U.S. illegally could be separated when they get here under a proposal now being considered by the Department of Homeland Security. Reuters reports it's one piece of a proposed plan to deter mothers from taking the risk of losing their children for a while in order to get into the U.S. without proper papers. Under the proposal, the Border Patrol could arrest the parents and keep them in custody, while the children would be put into protective custody operated by the Department of Health and Human Services. California Senate President Kevin De Leon told CNN the state of California wouldn't take part in such a program, but indicated there's not much the state could do to stop it.
There's no such thing as an invisible shield, where if you're an undocumented immigrant, you can run under that shield or behind that shield and you're protected. The reality is that immigration law is enforced by the federal immigration authorities, Homeland Security, and ICE, and no one can protect you from that. What we can do in California and other parts is say that we're not going to participate in separating children from their mothers or mothers from their children.
News of the separation proposal comes at a time when there are growing questions about whether immigration enforcement agencies are rounding up and deporting more than just dangerous criminals. The sound of a 13-year-old girl weeping while she shot video of her father being arrested and taken away by immigration authorities as he was dropping off his children at school this week in Lincoln Heights.
I cried because it's not easy to see your father in that situation and getting taken away.
He was tracked down for deportation because of a criminal record that included a misdemeanor DUI conviction 10 years ago and 2 driving infractions that resulted from his undocumented status. Now a number of similar arrests and deportations across the country are shaking up immigrant communities and creating a sense of fear and loathing.
The only man in my life, you're ripping him apart from me. A part inside in me has died.
An emotional Rose Escobar described how the arrest and deportation of her husband, Jose Escobar, to El Salvador 2 weeks ago has devastated her and her 2 children. Mr. Escobar had lived in the U.S. for 16 years and had temporary permission to stay, but missed an immigration hearing. And in Jackson, Mississippi this week, 22-year-old Daniela Vargas, who came to the U.S. when she was 7, spoke at an immigration rally about her fear of being deported. Soon thereafter, her worst nightmare became reality when she was pulled over, detained, and will soon be deported for overstaying her visa. But these are not the kinds of immigrants President Trump keeps talking about deporting.
We're getting the bad ones out, okay? We're getting the bad. If you watch these people, it's like, oh, gee, that's so sad. We're getting bad people out of this country, people that shouldn't be, whether it's drugs or murder or other things. We're getting bad ones out.
But that's not what the executive order signed by President Trump in January says. It calls for execution of the immigration laws against all removable aliens and leaves it up to the judgment of the immigration officer to decide if an undocumented immigrant who's in the country illegally but has not committed a serious crime still poses an unspecified risk. Jose Escobar's attorney says the crackdown has gone too far.
Deporting criminals, getting bad of the bad hombres. Well, sadly, we're getting good hombres deported too.
Now, supporters of the new immigration crackdown argue that the overwhelming majority of those who are being deported are, in fact, dangerous criminals. Overwhelming numbers, they say. And they charge critics of the crackdown are using a handful of cases to create the illusion that everyone who's being deported is a law-abiding, family-oriented victim, when, in fact, they say that couldn't be further from the truth. Elsa, back to you.